be a third world country.
You made a comment about the Bush administration. They raised the federal government grew under them.
Well, that's exactly. Well, I just give you an example. First George Bush, the total federal budget was $1.8 trillion. Okay,
But he grew the government, correct?
they all did.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, an example. I was just trying to illustrate where we're headed. We're headed here in this decade, at this rate, where our national debt will be higher than our gross domestic product. That's not sustainable at all.
Thank you.
The political answer, of course, is to not cut anything because you don't want to get in trouble, and that's what a lot of politicians are doing now in Washington. But the real answer is we've got to introduce free market forces into these programs. Instead of telling people you're going to live on meager Social Security the rest of your life, why aren't we encouraging private investment where you can actually retire? Retire with something a whole lot more than just Social Security. And in the healthcare, Medicaid and these other programs are just another example of how government can get in and make things substandard. Now we just had a healthcare vote where I'll tell you what, as much as we can't afford this healthcare bill, the way you're going to really notice us not being able to afford beyond the cost is the quality is going to go in the tank now, because who's going to be a provider? Who's going to be a healthcare provider in this system? I know many healthcare providers, and they want out. They don't want to be a part of this system. So you're talking about a serious shortage.
I actually think the problem is a whole lot worse than the collapse of these programs. I think we're potentially looking at the collapse of the U.S. economy. I know that sounds doomsday, but here's the facts. We have a $14.5 trillion economy. Our current running deficit is $12.5 trillion, almost what the gross domestic product is. And that does not include the unfunded mandates that we're talking about. When you add those in, we're looking at $50 or $60 trillion. Now here's what's happened. The Chinese are saying we're going to quit buying your debt obligations. They have $1 trillion. They're silently trying to get rid of some of those debt obligations right now. The Indians just bought 2 metric tons of gold. Moody's and Fitch and the rating agencies are beginning to talk about downgrading the U.S. credit. We're reaching a point where if we're going to address some of this really quick, and it's not a lot of it, we just have to quit the spending habit, that we potentially we'll see the economy either collapse, or we're going to see hyperinflation. We're going to see other countries not buy our debt obligations. The same thing happened to the Russians. To be strong country, it's not just strong militarily, you have to be strong financially as well.
Charles Moorhead.
I get two?
No, excuse me. Throw your card back. Kind of grossly interested. Another bit of 2 cents for me. We've killed off 52 million taxpayers, and if those people were paying the taxes, we wouldn't be near what we're at today. Larry McCoy.
Hi. You guys have spoken to some degree in specifics, but the day one you walked through, talked about the spending cuts, starving government. What bill do you introduce to cut what programs specifically?
The very first thing is you repeal the health care reform. That's the #1 threat to our economy and our nation. As I mentioned, the number of higher taxes and that, and Caterpillar alone says it's going to cost them $1 million their first year alone. The first thing that has to be done is you repeal the health care reform. You got to get cap and trade off the table. It's going to hit this district harder than just about any other district in the nation, because we're going to lose jobs, some of the best jobs in this district: farming, manufacturing, transportation, distribution jobs. Our electricity, 89% of it comes from coal. We can't afford that tax. We can't afford to lose those jobs. So day one is getting those pieces of legislation off the table, getting them repealed, and being able to focus on jobs in the economy, which is less taxes, less government, and getting government out of the way so that they're stopping job growth.
I agree with that same order. The first thing we got to do is we have to go, if it's still there, hopefully by then the Supreme Court is taking care of this, but we got to get the health care issue taken care of. The cap and trade issue's got to be addressed right away. There's a lot of other things. I think we got to audit the Federal Reserve as quickly as we possibly can. Give us a good look at what's been going on there. I think think that once we audit the Federal Reserve, people right now think you're crazy when you start talking about getting rid of the Federal Reserve. If you audit them, the American people will wake up and begin to see there's something way off a kilter here. There are so many things that can be done that, healthcare, cap and trade, auditing the Federal Reserve, beginning to get rid of the IRS if we have tax reform and eliminating the large pieces of government like that. It's really all around. But we have to go through the ones that right now are going after the jugular. We've got some things that are going after the jugular, and then we got to build our way through it all.
Well, the government of this nation has done everything they can to discourage job creators from creating jobs. You talk to the average job creator that's got a large enough facility to actually help the community. They'll tell you, as much as I'm an American, I want to keep my facility in America, but it would be so much easier for me to just give up and go to Mexico, China, and export those jobs, because financially the government's breathing down my neck, and they're anti-business, and they don't want me to keep my jobs here. And all the candidates up here are basically saying the same thing, and that's, we have to do something. Not just talk. We got to just not talk about ending excessive regulation. We got to actually do it. We got to not just talk about lowering taxes. We've got to do it. And if defeating Obama and defeating Zach's base means we're going to go back to the same Republicans we had the last 12 years, we've done absolutely nothing.
That's right.
Obviously, it was just previously stated that the healthcare, cap and trade, those got to be repealed. Cap trade's got to be off the table. We've got to let the private sector work, the free enterprise system work, and produce the energy we need this country moving. And I've said this I don't know how many times tonight. We've got to get the spending. We've got to cut spending. And if you look, this current fiscal year, we've had about 10% increase in spending, non-defense spending, 12% fiscal year before that under the Obama administration. I think it's really easy to say we can get this back to baseline 07 spending levels, start from there, and cut taxes so that the money's not going to keep feeding that. And I'm strong in this, going after the EPA. The EPA is killing us. If they get control of the carbon dioxide, CO2 regulation, you talk about healthcare power over us. Carbon dioxide, they will regulate us to death, and we need to rein in the U.S. EPA and look at some other agencies too that need to be have their budgets severely cut. And it's a good start. It didn't set the clear signals to get people back to work.
I would agree with everything that's been said here, but I'm reminded of what it says in the book of Deuteronomy. I call all heaven and earth as a witness against you today. I set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Choose life that you and your children may live. And one of the major issues that I would push forth when I go to Congress is the personhood amendment for the right of the unborn children. Let me tell you something. If we think that we can stand on the steps of the Capitol, or we can go to the White House, or we can stand in any church house in America, and we can say, God bless America, when we are slaughtering 52 million babies. Now, listen, let's go beyond 52 million. Because every one of those children would have got married and had children. It would be an exponential amount. And the Word says that children are a heritage unto the Lord. And if we do not first and foremost protect the lives of God's children from birth to natural death, we cannot expect the blessings of God upon this nation. Economic issues, jobs, all of that, from my standpoint, pales in comparison to the life of an innocent human being in its mother's womb. We are better than this, America. We are better than this. I will champion that cause.